Hey, well, it might be 43 seconds in, but that's fine. I'll figure that out. But it is actually capturing the. No, I don't have audio, but it's capturing the game. That's good enough. But I really just want to chat with you.
Yeah, that's
so. Yeah, I guess we'll just. Well, I'll run around and play Elden Ring, and you'll run around and play Elden Ring, and we'll chat about Dweghom.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Okay, I'm playing on my double magma sword person with cool black armor.
Oh, look at you!
Yeah, I know.
I guess I'll roll. I'll go back the other way.
Should have just done my dumb playthrough. But what? So we're gonna chat about Dweghom, and the question is, what? Why Dweghom? Kind of what's going on with Dweghom? How about we start with what do you like about Dweghom? Why do you play Dweghom?
I mean, start. Yeah, it's both personal and gameplay wise, right? Like, I grew up playing Warhammer Fantasy, and dwarves were my army. I've just always enjoyed the aesthetic of short little bastards, tough as hell, covered in armor, tanking around, blowing shit up, smacking crap, the usual stuff. So I remember when we were first looking at getting into Conquest, I was trying to actively avoid. I might have told this story before. I was trying to actively avoid playing Dweghom. Or the dwarves of the faction, in any case. For the simple fact that, I already had a Warhammer Fantasy army. Paid it up, ready to go. I had cards on Overlords for AOS. I was like, I've done the dwarf thing already. Let me see if I can expand that a little bit. So I'm looking at 100 Kingdoms. I'm looking at Nords. I'm like, all right. I can see what's going on here. It's pretty cool. And then I saw the Hellbreaker Drake. And then I saw Dragon Slayers. And I was like, God fucking damn it, I'm doing this, aren't I? So, bought into it, never looked back. Dweghom are just such a unique take on the dwarf formula. Still close enough that you can very clearly recognize beyond just their general, the fact that they are dwarves.
Yeah.
You can still recognize them for that, but they're still, obviously they're casting spells, they're slinging stuff around. They lean much more on the Chaos Dwarf element than your standard dwarf variety tends to. Gameplay wise, they still play very dwarfy, right? They're not high movement, they're not high mobility. They're blowing shit up still, but they're doing it the way that translates to the Conquest tabletop is very unique and, in my opinion, a very satisfying playstyle. I know a lot of people tend to find it probably a little more on the boring side, even maybe a little bit too easy. But when you're playing against other really good players, nothing is too easy. So I genuinely so. So I'm always there's always new little pieces of because you're always trying to squeeze out every little bit that you can get out of a faction, and there's plenty of that in Dwehom, even if everything looks pretty kind of just above board and straightforward. So yeah, Dwehom are pretty awesome.
Oh, cool. It's always interesting to know why people gravitated to factions and what was kind of the selling point to them, because I'm a little bit of I don't really swap factions too often. Sometimes I'll dabble to see if I like it, and then other times it's more I kind of stick to one. So knowing why people go that way is always interesting, and it's usually aesthetic. It's always funny what kind of always grabs people.
Yeah.
Because you gotta like the minis to play them.
I remember listening to your chat with Leo. I think this came up in that chat, where when you're designing rules and whatnot for a game, story comes first, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have to give context to what you're doing and what you're playing about. If we wanted a alternate activation strategic war game, why not go play chess? You know what I mean? Or why not go play any of the other games on the market? You got to sell a story along with it. And Conquest just has really cool aesthetics for things. And Dweghom are... come on, man. It's just fucking... I can't think of a more metal thing to do than get so angry at being a slave race that you bury to the core of the planet and release war itself and break the world. Become infused with war itself. I remember the first time I realized that, I was like, oh shit, there's something really awesome lore going on here. was when I think the line was like when the Dwehom emerged, like when they broke War free from its cage and shattered it and broke the spell and the bindings and all that stuff. And they brought, when they came back to the surface, they weren't waging a rebellion, but a true war, a contest of equals. I remember reading that line and I was like, fuck, that's badass. That is so many levels of badass. So yeah, aesthetics and story and lore and all that, it's so important. It really sells the idea.
Yeah, and it's one of the big kind of like selling points I have for Conquest itself is that Stravos, the story, like he writes all the lore and everything. And I'm pretty sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he is the owner of Parabellum.
I'm not actually sure the exact like who owns what, but he's definitely the main creative vision behind the whole thing. Like he's definitely the driving force of it. That's for sure.
And I really like the creative vision that he has for this game and how he implements it for Conquest. And that's one of the great things about this game that I really like and really latch onto, because like when I played War Machine, I really liked its lore. It was actually really interesting to see this world and all that stuff, and just like all the fighting and how everything like came to be. Same thing with like 40K and Warhammer Fantasy. Like you know me as a very avid reader, where I go and read a lot of this stuff, and so one of the really big things I'm excited about is Conquest books, because I surely buy those and read them and collect them. Like I always enjoy that stuff, and like and Stravos, the lore sells. So I'm always glad for that. But the next thing that I guess we're kind of getting onto our main topic is you're a competent Conquest player. So
supposedly.
Now, good or enoughly. What is? Let's get into like the strategy and tactics of Dweghom, and if I don't know if you want to like go through different units or just kind of like war bands individually, and then talk about some more general strategies and stuff. But like, we should probably do an overarching like what's Dweghom's play style. Like what are you going to be doing if you're a new player and I come up to you and I say, hey, Dweghom looks cool. You're the guy in the store who plays a lot of Dweghom, seems to be doing really well. What's their play style? What are they doing? How are they doing it? Why playing this faction strategy and tactics will I enjoy about it?
Yeah. So the main thing that you kind of need to know about Dweg, like to put them in the proper context, is their movement, right? Like Conquest, first and foremost, is a game about movement and positioning. Your stuff only matters if you get it to where it's got to go and the time it needs to be there. And sets up, because it's a game of alternating activations. They're setting up trades with each other, right? Or with your opponent's units, I should say.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, Dweg, compared to other factions, like other than maybe Old Dominion, although for Old Dominion this is about to change because they're about to get their centaurs. Like they're going to be the slowest faction on the battlefield. This is reflected in like not just the March stat. Like they don't have Vanguard. We don't have widespread access to flank. We don't have. We've got one unit with forward formation, and that unit kind of sucks right now. No double time, no fire in advance. There's more subtle ways too. Where like, we don't have volley 3 anywhere. Like our only volley 3 is our character. Is the Tempered Sorcerer, and that's one character, right? So we're terrible moving and shooting.
Yeah.
I could go on, right? So like, that's our main drawback, and that's a pretty big drawback in a game. Again, a game about maneuvering and positioning. What we get in return, however, is some of the nastiest fucking fighters and stat blocks you'll see in the game for their cost, right? So like Fireforged are absolutely ridiculous. One of the most identifiable like infantry units in the Dweg roster. It's a bunch of AP2 shooting with defense 4 in the front. So they're both.
It's absurd.
yeah, they're tanky walls that also just blow you up with shoulder-mounted cannons. What more do you want?
Yeah, game busted. Please nerf.
Right, right. The main line, kind of tough, nasty fighter on the Argent side are Wardens. You know, I've been playing a lot with Wardens lately. Wardens are probably one of, like, you take that stat line in any other faction and they would be salivating over it, right? Like, Clash 3, 6 attacks, cleave 1.
Yeah, it's a really good stat line. Like, as a primarily 100k player, like, the closest thing to that, at that slot for a medium, is Household Guard at Clash 2, cleave 1, 4 attacks. Like, there is such a huge difference, but there's also a point cost associated to that.
Exactly. And, like, you know, Household Guard, like, they've got other things going on, right? Where you can buff them up with the officer. They get a lot of benefit from the character being in there, and so on and so forth. But
and
the Warden,
sheer bodies with support and relentless drill support.
Right, but like Wardens are just inherently efficient. Like, they don't need that much additional on top of that. They can get it through character support, but they're incredible as they are on their own. And, you know, other units are also perfect examples of that. So when you're playing Dweg, what you have is an army that doesn't spread the field very much, doesn't fight, you know, it's not going to spam victory points, even with Ardent light scoring being what it is right now, or Hold Rae supremacy, even though Hold Rae supremacy is kind of crap. They're not. We just don't have the movement to actually take the field in any real meaningful way, because there's no real taking the field without proper support with each movement that you make. You know, units should activate in tandem, or act in tandem, I should say. And we don't have enough units, we don't spread the field wide enough, and we don't do it fast enough for that to matter. So what you're going to have is a relatively tight castle with a pretty closely formed strong flank, and a pretty tight, butted up right up against that weak flank. And but, you know, wherever your opponent goes to fight that, they're going to be having a pretty rough time, because your guys are just so tough and so nasty. And obviously you have Drakes with cannons and other ridiculous shit firing behind it, and all of the magic and everything going along with it. Magic being the other big thing about Dweg, by the way. You're just blowing shit up left and right with fire and magma spells. All to that purpose.
No, I really like... one of the things I really like about Dweghom, and I don't think we really talked about this, is that they layer very well to be the concept of the castle. I think they're the best faction with castles. So... that's a concept where you have a strong front line, and you have sufficient things behind it that can do the output, like shooting, what Dweg has a lot of and is very good at it, either magically or just with actual guns, to keep people off you, and then, like, off your walls, what is your strong frontline characters. And I do enjoy that playstyle that Dweghom kind of falls itself into. When I've played them and seen them played, it's something that I don't think you really understand and see until you, I guess, play Dweghom, who do it really well, because it becomes very apparent.
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes I'll see looking at other Dweg players at other tables is they'll spread the field very wide. You know, they'll just walk up a bunch of stuff in one big line across the whole table. And hope for the best. Now, into other players who are more or less doing the same thing, that's a pretty good proposition as the Dweg player, right? Because your stuff, typically, pound for pound, matched up with another unit, is probably going to win. But the worst things that Dweg can get into is getting swarmed by other stuff. So a player that actually positions well, castles, and invites you going in one by one, and then, you know, collapses in on you and punishes you for it. That's you're going to feel the pain as Dweg. We have the famous story. I think Carl, I think we brought it up during the LVO discussion that we had. You know, one of the Dweg, his Dweg opponents, Carl, like, killed like 1,000 points of his army with just Strix alone, because the guy just fucking walked his stuff forward, and Strix got in the flank, and he never turned around to deal with it or handle it anyway, and then he just got steamrolled. Right now, that's going to happen to any faction, but against Dweg in particular, that's just a lot of points value that you're going to lose out of every engagement, as opposed to, like, you know, just like an MSU of Men-at-Arms or Mercenary Crossbowman or something like that. So, getting overwhelmed like that is not a good idea. And to your point, Dweg layer better than most armies, A, because we have, you know, we're not really reliant on size 2 stuff. Like we have steel forts, we have automata. Both of those are kind of actually on the lower side right now, and in either case, you're not really taking them in anything bigger than an MSU. So the meat of your army is in your mainstays, and your mainstays in Dweg are all infantry. So you're going to be, and there's plenty of size 2, size 3 stuff on the other side of the field. So you're going to be shooting up over your guys all the time. Yeah. And obviously there's the Hellbringer Drake that does that as well. So the Dweg Castle is not only very effective, but it's also very important for the army because we don't want our stuff to get overwhelmed. It's too high value to let that happen to it. And again, we don't have the movement to actually spread the field in an effective way, so we need to be able to castle well. And we have the rules to do that.
Yeah, it's one of the really things I like. What are, so we've kind of talked about some strengths, and we talked about a bit of the weaknesses. What are some, I kind of want to say, like, strengths and weaknesses on the stats themselves, like, on the cards, or on the war scrolls, or data sheets, like, however you want to put them, like, what are some common things that make Dweg? Like, one of the good examples I have, to explain it, is that Dweg are more pricier than a lot of other factions, but they have stats are relevant to those prices, so they tend to field less stuff, but also their stuff tends to be stronger. You would agree to that statement?
Yeah, roughly so.
Don't get me wrong, there's going to be like stuff that's really good and and so on, but they tend to just, on average, when fighting something of similar like weight or output, like your opponent's playing to get to the same output as Dweg, they're paying for more bodies, or like something that's pretty expensive and maybe is a restricted slot, while Dweg is like, look at my mainstay warders.
Sure. Yeah. So there's actually, I actually kind of think that Dweg is one of the more tightly, in terms of mechanical design. Most armies are pretty good in this regard, but Dweg has a really interesting, straightforward design philosophy to them. Where, again, our mobility is trash, right? So we're stronger in other areas. The mobility is trash thing, I spoke a little bit about how that extends to the range stuff, but we also have very poor march charge options. Like, we don't have cavalry. We don't have high movement values and impact, things like that. Aura Death kind of makes up for that. That's our march charge option, but otherwise, that's not really something that we do. But beyond that, the first thing is 5 wounds, right? Yeah. Everything is 5 wounds base, so we're tough as nails. That 5th wound matters. You look at men-at-arms and then you compare it to Hold Warriors, and obviously you should really be doing cross-faction comparisons all that often, but men-at-arms are kind of like the base thing to be looking at anyway for most factions. Yeah, you want kind of like the base stat line. You want a cheap objective tread, men-at-arms is kind of your guy. Actually, Legionnaires from Old Dominion have usurped that title from men-at-arms because they're 5 points less. And they're really fucking good, honestly, if you ask me right now, Legionnaires. But in any case, that 5th wound really matters. Like, that is very often a stand that lives that should have died. A stand that lives is 4 attacks, probably an unbroken unit, and so on and so forth. So that's very important. We also have a lot of cleave, armor piercing, hardened, all that stuff. We have very high quality attacks and defense. Right, so we have a pretty widespread access to that. The other thing I would say is we don't really. Oh my god! Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Are you fighting something? I am fighting something, and it's kicking my ass, and it's driving the thought right out of my head. What I was supposed to say, but yeah, we have a good cleave, good armor defense in terms of harden, and also kind of just we're a little bit reliant on shields, but we have pretty high defense values anyway, a lot of innate D3 and D4. It came back to me finally. The other thing I was going to say is we don't really do quantity attacks very well, right? We don't have, other than Argent, who has 6 attacks units all over the place, usually our quantity attacks are pretty low, but we make up for that with quality. But yeah, that's typically where Dweg is sitting at. They're really tough. They have a lot of quality hits in a lot of places, but they just don't have the movement to bring it to where it's got to go. Yeah, so that really focuses you on that the castle playstyle, because it forces your opponent to come to you, what solves that mobility problem. Yeah, and as an addition to that too, we don't have a lot of tempo, right? And I don't know that this is a term very used often in Conquest, even though you're probably familiar with it if you play games in any large capacity. But like in terms of like just getting extra values out of your activations or getting more actions in the course of an activation, like stuff like that. So either special rules like army rules like Conquest Chant, or special rules like Fire in Advance, Fluid Formation. Even we don't have a lot of that stuff. We're usually very much relying on double activate or just a regular old activations. So. We have to be very careful. Not only that's another key of why our positioning has to be so important, because we don't have a third action in a lot of cases to kind of like make up for it or to help us get a little bit of an extra edge on something. So we have to get our best out of a charge clash. Like we have to make sure we get the charge clash set up like we want it. Take aim volley, all that good stuff. So.
Yeah, like you don't have anything like you don't got any double time. Like you don't get any movement shenanigans. You don't have any things that. Like you're always inspire, like Dwehom is very. I find that faction very easy to get into because it's very much what you see is what you get. For stat lines, and what's kind of nice for people starting off, and it's very forgiving.
Yeah, 100%. Like I was mentioning earlier how like newer players are just going to kind of walk their stuff towards each other, and hope for the best. And like that is one of the reasons. Like Dweg obviously, all these things we're talking about are really good straight up fighters, and stuff of a weight class is probably going to outmatch stuff of the same kind of role and weight class of another faction in a one-on-one fight. But it's in those actually setting up your trades. Not walking forward into things that you shouldn't have to walk forward into. Take aim volley is probably the best example for the faction because everybody like tempered is the strongest thing right now. So when people think Dweg, they think a lot of guns at the moment. If you're walking into the Dweg guns, certainly if you're doing it piecemeal and just letting me sit there and take aim volley, you're going to have a bad time. But if you're forcing me to,
you cut out there a little bit. Bryan? He's still in here, he just stopped talking.
If you set yourself up for it, so it's an honest play style, but that's why you have to be less honest going into it, right? You have to force me to make rough decisions playing it.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a gap there. About the guns, there was a little just kind of cut out. I don't know if that's gonna show up or not.
Forgive my mic, everybody. It cuts in and out sometimes.
So, basically, you don't gotta just send one guy forward into Dweg. It's just gonna be a bad time. And I notice a lot of players do that, and it's like. You can't because you're just gonna hurt yourself.
Yeah, and it's the general weakness of range, right? Like Ben was talking about this not too long ago, and I fully agree with him in that. Ranged is good at controlling the board and controlling space. It's not good at taking space.
No.
So if you're just giving me space by walking into stuff, then that's all to the up and up. But if like you're forcing me to actually move up and try to take space with it, now all of a sudden I'm having a rough time. So
it's free money.
It's free money. So you have to not only that, but target saturation is that's why target saturation is so important, right? Because if you are swarming me all over the place and I can only shoot so many things at once, right? Like range damage is great, but it's only going to do so much compared to melee damage. Like melee damage obviously causes resolves on top of it.
Yeah.
So you actually have a much better chance. And not only that, but your melee damage is coming alongside of taking the space offered by a charge, typically, right? Not giving up. I just got stabbed to death by just Elden Ring things. But yeah. Dweg is very strong, but they are kind of like I liken them to an old martial arts master, right? He's a little old. He's not as swift as he once was. A little bit of stiffness in the joints, all that kind of stuff. But God save you if you forget your fundamentals. You know what I mean? He's gonna fucking beat you to hell. So castle up, set up your trades, Don't walk willy-nilly into things, and you'll give Dweg a good fight. Now, of course, Dweg have their tools to fight it back, as we'll get into, but yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like that about Dweg. Like, it's a very much a stats fundamental faction, what's really good. Because games need those factions because it does help players understand and learn said game. Mm-hmm. But also, if there are players who want to advance and do more crazy stuff, there's factions for that. If there's players who just like to be stats, that is a thing. But, you know, kind of as we talked, like, dragging Dweg out of their position and their castle is one of the key things that Dweg does not want to be doing and have to deal with. And so they have kind of a built-in counter if you're also good at positioning.
And it's also, like, it's literally, like, most of your objectives are midfield. Mm-hmm. So the Dweg has to come out of the castle if you're playing it right. Like, if you're not just walking into his castle on his side of the field, and you're actually just, like, you know, parking up just onto the middle and just being like, well, you have to come to me now. Then you're doing it right. So one of the big things to learn in this game, and I say this completely unironically, like, it's going to sound like I'm saying that a lot of players are just very dumb, but it's a very natural human impulse. But, like, just not walking forward, like, just choosing to do nothing when you could do something, sometimes that is the correct play. It goes against our instincts in a lot of ways, but sometimes that just is the correct play, and that comes up a lot.
It's sometimes actually kind of tough to tell when that is the correct play, and it's only by learning through experience will you get to that point where you know that's the correct play.
Exactly.
Shield bash to death.
Yeah, that'll happen. One of my favorite things about Elden Ring, just as a quick aside, is that, like, or really every single iteration of a FromSoft game, is that, like, they look at the game before it, and they know what kind of timings you've become used to, and then they completely fuck with those timings, and then you have to new game all over again.
Yeah. There's some enemy types in here that are literally just copy and paste from Dark Souls 3, and they are literally just different skins, but do the exact same motions and everything. What's quite funny when you start noticing them.
Like a lot of the basic stuff, for sure.
Yeah, like the Omen Killers, that is the Capra Demon from Dark Souls 1. It's the same model.
Fuck.
Yeah, it
is, isn't it?
Yeah, they removed the tail.
Oh my god, I hated that Capra Demon too when I was at Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1 might be my, like, legitimately, like, my not just my favorite video game, but my favorite, like, piece of art media.
It really is. Yeah, it sits up there very high, close to Warcraft 3.
Yeah, why are we talking about Dweg, man?
Yeah,
let's talk about video games. Fuck this.
Yeah, fuck Conquest.
Yeah,
we're having fun now.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, exactly.
So let's what are some of the, well, we kind of talked about pluses and minuses of, like, the general strategy and kind of the I want to say, I guess, stats of the faction. Let's kind of go through some of the warbands. Like, so Argent Kilaura, I believe you recently been starting to deep dive into him and his warband, and people just saw me run away like a coward, and I'm okay with that. I just turned the corner and was like, "Oh, that guy's, like, charging up for attack. Fuck this."
There's no Ogham to be gained.
No, I'm not a
Elden Ring.
Not a. Oh my god, I'm getting the shit kicked out of me.
Yeah, that's what happened. Oh god. Yeah. So the Caraway got very recently a giant boon. You know, he's been kind of suffering for a while. He had the break a unit spell, which, though powerful, like, you know, if it was in a horrible spot where you could never make it more than attunement 2, because then it would just be an absolutely busted spell, because it would be going off too often. But then it was, you know, kind of rough to justify ever taking, because it barely went off most of the time, and, like, sometimes it was useful, most of the time it wasn't, and otherwise his only other spell was always inspired, right? So not exactly the most inspiring spell sweep.
No, but absolutely not.
Yeah. So between that and the fact that the Creed and the Supremacy are kind of on the they're good, they're just not tempered level good. Caraway just didn't see a lot of play, but given the new updates to his spell suite, he can make light units scoring now, or just +2 scoring in general.
I just call it the go score spell.
Go score, yeah, exactly. Take this, please.
It's called a Rainboard. I still don't address it as that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to cast the score spell now.
How rancorous of you. Then he got -1 resolve to a unit, which is also incredibly powerful. Like, you just give one of your units basically pseudo-terrifying. And then turning off scoring for an enemy unit. Like, this is an incredibly powerful suite of spells. And it's really made him a much more interesting pick. So, whereas before in tempered lists, even though the Caraway generates tokens for you, like, you didn't have spells that you really wanted to cast. Like, I guess the always resolve spell or always inspired spell was worth spamming tokens for, but you didn't really, like, that wasn't really adding anything to the tempered gameplay, and you couldn't get elsewhere. And you would just take the Reg band because the Reg provided the frontline melee units you kind of needed for your guns to do the work that they wanted to do. But these days, because the Kara has such a good suite of spells, the units in his band that have always been good, like they've always had these, not always, but for a long time now, they've had these ridiculous stat lines that we were talking about before. Mm-hmm. They have a much better chance to shine. And you look at his warband, and now he's mainstay berserkers to a maximum of 2. So what was normally before a restricted pick are now just straight up accessible to you. Light unit, clash 3, 6 attacks, no cleave 1, but resolve 5, defense 3. Sort of absurdly, like, this is a light unit that can go toe to toe with most medium units, and with some amount of support, they can even take on heavy units.
I have had them be attacked by Incarnate Sentinels and lived, and my opponent had to use their draw event to clash again to get rid of them before they clap back. And it was like, what the fuck is happening?
They're utterly insane. Like, and that's where resolve damage comes in. Like, they're a case study on why resolve is so important, right? Because you could hit them with like 10, 11 cleave 3 attacks, and then that probably only kills 2 stands or so. So if you have a block of them, because resolve is so relevant, so if you have a good block of them, that's still a bunch of dudes waiting to clap you back for the damage that they did.
Yeah, resolve 5 is so strong. Like, resolve 4 is strong, but like once you go to 5, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. I basically get to ignore all this.
It's a very good stat. Like, I think it's if there's a stat in the game that is probably okay at being 5 on a unit, it is resolve. Yeah. For the simple fact that you can play around it, right? There's obviously you have terrifying and all that stuff, but it's more that it does nothing into ranged, so it's weak to shooting, and it only matters for a certain amount of your.
It does nothing into range, but it also your opponent still did damage. It's not like having high defense where your opponent can just bounce off of the defense and then they take no damage, and then they also take no resolve. So like if Parabellum, I don't know, did like a defense 5 resolve 1 regiment, weird, but okay.
I would say that would be like that would still be less good than just like a resolve 5 regiment of some kind, right? Because like just getting through that initial damage window, like it would be pretty awful to deal with in a lot of cases. Like, I mean, it dies horribly to cleave stuff, but yeah, it's just a much safer stat to have that high. Mm-hmm. There are arguments for and against it. Obviously, there's a lot to be said for just not having anything that high in the game. But if there was a stat that I think I'm okay with being that high, it's definitely resolve. But wardens, to keep the thing going, wardens on the other hand are resolve 4, but they are fearless, so they're never suffering terrifying effects. And like we were saying before, that they have cleave 1, 6 attacks. Absolutely absurd. Cleave 1 is the most effective quality of your damage increasing stat there is. So just being able to have that on top of that number of attacks is absolutely insane. And then obviously you have the Ardent Supreme to give them another 2 attacks on top of everything else.
Yeah, well, doing great.
They're crazy. Magma Forged, I'm going to hold off mostly on Judgment because they're probably going to get changed a bunch before release. But if they were to release as they are right now, like another very good unit, probably the best Peace Trader in the game except for Wardens. But although once they release, they would definitely give Wardens a 1 for their money.
I really like the minis on Magna Forge. I can't see
dude.
them and
I'm so
actually play them. Like I'm excited for those guys.
Mm. we don't have enough two-handed axes in the faction, so I'm glad that they recognize this lack and are filling it in because it's very important.
Too many one-handed axes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, other than that, initiates are excellent. They are really they're excellent character bunkers. Like I don't think they're particularly worth taking without a character. They are tough, but they kind of just the clash 2 attacks. You might have a good mass of them and a decent block, but they're not exactly killing anything anytime soon. But if you throw a Rag in there with Dragbrood, or even a Carrowag in there with Dragbrood, then a host of additional goodies of sides, then yeah, they suddenly become a really disgusting unit. The Rag himself will just claim a stand of whatever he's looking at every turn, if not more. And then the initiates add a bunch of pokes along with it, so yeah.
It's very similar to the polo mark with the lightsaber and the hoplite block.
Yes, exactly. And that hoplite block is good because it has the polo mark and the auxiliary stand, right? Like it's got the character and the additional little bit of damage potential. The initiates also come with Iron Discipline, which is very relevant. Like they're probably going to get flanked in the course of a game. Obviously, you should try to keep from getting flanked if you can, but game being what it is, your opponent's trying to flank you. Having that big block by its nature is probably going to eat that flank. So having not having to take resolve rerolls is very relevant indeed, and also keeping support, but that's a little less relevant. But yeah. So very strong warband in the Carrowig band. A lot of the Ardent bands I've been running lately, like the list I was going to play before this recording.
Yeah.
If TTS would cooperate with us, was going to have basically 3 MSUs of Zerkers, 2 of them with the Carrowigs in them, and then 3 MSU of Wardens, and that is an entirely feasible way to play them because those are just really good units.
Yeah, you're playing Dwehom Goblin. Dwehom Goblin being a thing now.
Closest thing that we'll get to Dwehom Goblin, other than this ridiculous fucking 6-caster list I came up with once upon a time, but yeah.
I always remember the initial before we were playing. Oh, this is years ago when we first started playing Conquest. Before the tournament pack, before all that stuff, and you could just build whatever. One of the local Dwehom players was like, "What if I just took Tempered Sorcerer and Fire with a Fire Forge, and then just repeat Warband until 2,000 points?" And it was like, yeah, I also like to kill myself. Jesus.
2 characters. Thank you, PB.
Yeah.
of each kind. Yeah.
Because it would be a problem. I think back about before the weight class change on characters for the gunline list, and how
yeah.
How it's okay, well, you got a Noble Lord and Longbows, you got an Imperial Officer and Imperial Ranger Corps, whatever. You can have that scoring with the 4 characters, and you're just shooting at your opponent, and that's how you're kind of winning, just through weight of shot. So it's there, but now it's no longer in what is it? It's no longer in 100k. You can still do it in Dweghom, but if you're doing, I don't know, if you're doing that, you're probably, I don't know, you can get countered. I'm getting the shit kicked out of me by a Crucible Knight.
I get it. It's very easy. As I've learned experimenting with the light scoring, it's very easy to overextend your scoring and just getting not even necessarily an over aggressive move from your opponent, but fucking marksman clones might show up and just snipe you from across the board, right?
Yeah.
There's certain matchups where it's just not going to matter as much, but it's a powerful tool to have. But yeah, Carrowig, his supremacy is actually extremely powerful. It's a very good supremacy. +2 attacks on all your command stands, and 1 turn to have a +2 inch charge bonus on 2 objectives that your opponents are on. Very strong, because it lets you that kind of turn 3 or turn 4. You're finalizing your initial castle positions. You're about ready to start beating the shit out of your opponent. It gives you a couple extra inches of play for those initial charges and trade setups. That is very, very strong, especially if your wardens are coming on out of nowhere from say a reinforcement line or from the flank to push the weak flank where your opponent thought that they would be able to take more easily. It's a very good supremacy, and obviously +2 attack to the command stand turns your stuff into. I said before, wardens are maybe the best peace traders in the game. It turns them even better peace traders because you knock them down to 1 warden stand, and then that 1 warden command stand drops 7 cleave 1 hits on you, which is as much output as some units have. So yeah, they're really really good.
Well, they're 6 attacks each, plus 2 from the thing going to A, plus so it'd be 9.
9 cleave 3 or clash 3 going to clash 4 on Spire attacks, yeah, and that's where the creed comes in, right? Because even if you knock them down those 2 stands, they unbreak at the end of that activation, and yeah, he's free to inspire and hit you.
They're still good to kill. Like,
still great. Good to go. Yeah. Still doesn't quite match up the tempered. Just in terms of sheer power and utility of the tokens, and obviously the guns are very good.
Yeah, so let's talk about
it's closer than we think. Yeah,
let's talk about it. So like, one of the things I really like about the Argent Kilaura, especially with all the changes, that he does have good peace trading regiments, as well as things you can kind of build to be that wall. Like, I know you've had lists where you're running 2 blocks of 5 Flame Berserkers, and they're such a pain in the ass to kill, especially as a light. Like, it's just, there's not really much in the game that can contend with that right off the bat. What I found.
Yeah, and you know, that list in particular, my Icon list was running what was the Tempered Sorcerer Warlord, so it was running Tempered tokens. So those blocks have decent defense stats already, right? Defense 3, resolve 5. Obviously, the block gives them a little bit extra resolve.
Gives them terrifying defense.
Gives them some terrifying defense. The Caraway, one of them gets to take Tenacious for their unit, so that's another wound that they're ignoring every time. Then obviously you have tokens on top of that. So those blocks are even tougher than they look on their surface because of all that stuff. They're quite spicy for that. But yeah, that's kind of the power of Tempered, right? Are those tokens, and that's why most of the consensus correctly is that Tempered is the more powerful of the creeds, because I was mentioning tempo advantage earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Ardent's tempo advantage is the free unbreak, right? That's a very specific scenario of tempo advantage. Like, that's a very specific thing that they're working against. It comes up. It happens a lot. It's impactful and meaningful. But just being able to blunt entirely, not entirely, but effectively entirely, like your opponent's entire activation into you, right? So like, just drop 5 tokens and reduce the amount of hits you're about to take by like half or something like that. That's incredibly powerful, and especially once you kind of start getting a feel and an eye for like, I really need this flank to hold for just a little bit longer with this MSU of Fireforge or something I have sitting here. I'm just going to spend just enough tokens to keep it alive, so that you, the opponent, have to waste another activation to kill it. And slow you down a little bit longer. That's tempo. Yeah,
it really is, just because it supports the walls of the castle back, like, to how Dweg do it, and that's why those shit tickets are so fucking good.
Yeah.
Especially if you like really need something to live, you can, and you have a ton of tickets, because it's not, especially with like a well optimized like a Dweghom list that's really generating tickets like 5 a turn, and those first couple turns you generate like 15 before the lines are clashed.
Yep.
You can and then someone hits you really hard, you can spend 5 to reduce that damage, and then 5 wounds go through, so you take those, but then you're going to take 5 resolve, and you just shake those off as well. Like, you can reduce so much. Like, you could theoretically reduce 10 wounds. Well, you can reduce 10 wounds, but I don't know, are you going to?
If you have the tokens.
Yeah. But it's also a lot of tokens, because those tokens do value more on defense than resolve, because you've already taken damage for that resolve to happen.
But you actually can't do it, like, because you can only spend 5 tokens over the course of a single action.
So you can't do defense and resolve at the same time?
Correct. But okay. the trick I think you might be thinking of is if you're running the Steel Shaper Warlord, because he heals you for the tokens that you spend.
Yeah.
So up to 3. So basically, up to 3 tokens are doubled in value, right? Because you prevent a damage and then you heal 1 for it.
Oh, okay. Then my bad. I thought you could do resolve. I do know you can do it as impact and then clash, because it's 2 different actions.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the Steel Shaper, like, you take damage, like, you just roll your defense rolls, you take whatever wounds on defense, and then you token away to resolves and heal back whatever you took on the defense rolls initially. So yeah, both of those, it's actually one of the reasons why I kind of, from a design perspective, kind of dislike Tempered Creed, because it encourages character spam.
Yeah.
Which to me is weird for
4 characters are casters.
Right, and typically running anything like 3 characters is already kind of dubious in a lot of factions. Unless you really want that 11th or 12th card, which does have value in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But those are points going to not wounds. So that's usually kind of on the you better have a good reason for it side. 4 characters is usually well out of bounds, but for Dweg, tempered, that's honestly not bad at all because your casters are just so fucking efficient and so good, and obviously you get the tokens for it that it kind of makes up for the wounds that you might lose, especially in Steel Shaper. Like I think 4 casters is more appropriate in Steel Shaper than potentially Sorcerer Warlord. Although Sorcerer Warlord could still roll with it. Like that's what I rolled in Akon. That's just how good tokens are. But that also has to do with Karawakes generating you tokens too. So, and Karawake stuff's good. But yeah, in terms of temper, your main bread and butter are Fireforged. Fireforged are an incredible unit. They saw a nerf recently down to Resolve 3. I think that was entirely warranted. Yeah, the Resolve 4 before was pretty crazy. Like they just never fucking died.
One of my big issues is their Defense 3 with a buckler, which gives them +1 for the shield. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, exactly.
And even then, if you get into their side, they're still Defense 3 base. It's like, oh, this is really good. Like their the defense on that regiment is still really good, and it's just like, oh my god. And then them used to having high resolve. At 3, it's more reasonable, but I'm like, god damn it, this thing is hard to crack. Because you got to weather all the shooting to get there, and it's just like, oh my god, and it's just a pain. I hate dealing with them.
They're a really good unit. Now, I mean, AP2 on the guns and all that fun stuff. Yeah. They're absolute trash in melee.
They 5 or 4, I forget.
Barrage 4. Okay. But only a 14-inch range, which is another one of those movement and positioning weaknesses at Dweg, right? Like I gotta get close to you with it. So this is, and to that point, this is why they work so well in tandem. I usually I don't like 1 Fireforged. I usually prefer at least 2 if I'm running them at all.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the very least, Fireforged plus Wardens, because inevitably one of those Fireforged is going to get caught in melee. So you want the other Fireforged unit right there to blast whatever the first one's in melee with. Yeah. And obviously size 1 plays to that a little bit, but if you're going into something in size 2, usually not that big a deal because the way the line of sight ranged rules work in this game, so long as you've got 1 stand in sight, you're probably fine. You'll probably be able to get all the other stands in, but yeah. Very, very integral. Obviously, they're a mainstay to both the Steel Shaper and the Sorcerer Warbands, so they're very integral to how tempered play, and they're a very good unit. They're gonna. Enough of them are going to weather away and cause enough attrition to. Oh my god, I'm getting absolutely murdered by shooting, which is very relevant to what we're talking about right now.
Good.
yeah, it's karma, I guess.
Don't worry, I have a beastman who's just beating the shit out of me right now.
Yeah,
that my face.
Just Elden Ring things, but yeah, Fireforged are very good. They are definitely worth taking. They're very good to the point that I think they've more or less kind of invalidated Automata to this point.
Yeah, Automata needed the nerfs because they were just ridiculous dealing with them, and they were so quick for such a slow faction that it really allowed them to just kind of have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what the fuck? And then also they're in the Tempered Warband, but really supports that whole style of list. Yeah, it's good that they're in there because you want to support that style of list, but it was also like, they were just getting all their toys. Like the Dweg, one of the strong things of Dweg that I noticed is that they have very good warband efficiency. Like everything in their warbands is very much something that they want. Like it's all kept very well internally inside each of their warbands, so you just really need to grab the character and do whatever you want. And it works very well within itself.
This is true for the most part. We still have a couple of I would say kind of subpar units, like we were just talking about Automata, that's one of them.
Yeah.
Steelforge I think could use a little bit of help. They don't feel like they're quite worth the restricted slot right now, especially because Wardens exist and Caraway kind of slots it to Tempered so well these days.
Are they mainstays or are they restricted Wardens?
Wardens are mainstay.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that before. That's the other crazy thing about them. Their fucking mainstay. That is not a restricted slot to get to those.
What the fuck is restricted in Argent Kilaura? Is it just the Magma Forge nowadays?
As of right now, it's just the Magma Forge, which I have put it into Stavros' head to like. Oh well, the giant killed me. I deserve that. I put it into Stavros' head to like give us a like some kind of a vanguarding heavy brute restricted option. Is my particular wish list, but really the main thing is that Arda definitely needs more restricted units right now, just for a little more variety in that warband.
Yeah, like I get that Flame Berserkers were restricted before. Now you can only take 2, but they're mainstays. It really did open up Argent Kilaura a lot. What's really good, but if you're running the Dwehom Goblin, what's just warders and Jesus fuck, this horse is shooting fireballs. Dwehom Goblin was just warders and Flame Berserkers already. Like it didn't change that list design at all.
Yeah, it really didn't. Like at least on the Ardent side, like that warband basically is the exact same thing, which is one of the reasons why I think that mainstay Zerkers should probably just be Ardent only.
Are they not?
It's not. Yeah, that's why that temperate list can just like pick a Carrowegg and then just splash right into.
Like if it was Ardent like Warlord.
Like just make it. Yeah, attach it to that because, and honestly, that makes a little bit more sense once Magma Forge come out anyway, and hopefully with another restricted choice. But that's just like a tool that I don't think Temperate should particularly have, because like their light unit should be Automata or Ballistay. I'd like to see Automata get some kind of buffer increase or anything. Honestly, I'd like to see their combat efficacy go up and their movement get reduced to 6 or something along those lines. I don't think they need to be fast. Like that's not really what Dweg need to be doing. They need something a little bit more fighting because right now they're just like, I mean, yeah, they got some impacts, but it's like 1 impact, maybe 2 for the whole unit. Our death is nice, but otherwise they're just class 2 attacks 4. Like they're hitting like men at arms. That's not for 180 points. That's not cutting it. Movement 7 and fluid formation are good things to have in Dweg, but not if they're not actually hitting anything. And again, at that price point, you could pick up a unit of Fireforged, which is probably going to be better. So, that's the problem with that warband. The other good restricted slot in the Tempered Sorcerer in particular, obviously, is the Hellbringer Drake.
Yeah.
The Hellbringer Drake's in a weird spot where I don't think you ever take it. Like, even though it is now not required to have the rider for the draw event overcharge tokens. The problem is, I think generally speaking, because of the nature of the caster spam in Tempered in the first place, if you're taking 2 sorcerers, you're probably taking both of them on a Drake anyway, unless you're really committed to a foot thing. Or I guess more accurately, I should say, if you're taking 2 Drakes, you're probably putting a sorcerer on both of them. So it's just the best home for the sorcerer, like to have that monster footprint as where you can toss spells off of. And I know a lot of people were excited about Entourage Fire or we've been calling it Entourage, but being able to activate your command card into that was the old name for it, but being able to activate your character card into your infantry unit or whatever non-monster unit that you're attached to.
Yeah,
very powerful. Like honestly, that is good with the Fireforged. With the Fire Sork, because obviously you just blow shit up with that. That's a really powerful activation, but you compare that to just slapping him on a M7 monster that sits in the back and just kind of freely blasts away. It just doesn't quite hold up. So yeah, it's ridiculously powerful. Like if you're running Tempered, you're probably running 2 Drakes. You're definitely running at least 1, which is. I think that's kind of fine, honestly. Like it's kind of the one of the big poster childs of the faction, and the fact that we've gone from double Drake is the absolute. This is what you're doing to. Well, you could probably get away with 1 Drake. That's a decent spot to be in. So yeah, that's where that's sitting at right now. Not to mention that the Drakes are an M7 platform, which is just
it's very good. Like, they're the Drake is. I gotta do a meme thumbnail of. The Drake, I gotta like rip off its what is it? Its guns, maybe its face, and then put it like attach it to a baby stroller, and then put the Tempered Sorcerer in there. Like, cause
incredible.
He's really like the Drake is the greatest baby stroller for any character. I find, like especially a shooting character and a magic character. It's so good for it. And it's perfect. Like that's why I kind of say like Dwehom has very good kind of like warband balancing, because it's not hard to get the things you want and take all your toys.
Yeah, like I agree with that. Like,
yeah,
in general.
yeah, in general. Of course, like, you've mentioned before, there's some things that don't like really work in that, and that's true with all factions. Like 100K, the Imperial Officers Warband is probably the best one out of all of them. Sealed Temple, but you're just taking Sealed Temple for Ashen Dawn. Like, it's
sweet Ashen Dawn.
Yeah, I need some more Ashen Dawn. So yeah, it's very much like that's kind of what's going on there.
And that's the thing about the Steelforge, right? Like, because the Steelforge is a restricted pick, but it doesn't feel like a restricted pick compared to the rest of the army list.
No, it's you got other stuff in the faction that do the same thing well enough that you don't have to go that far to get that tool.
Exactly. Like, I could take Steelforged, and D4 is nice, but it's a little bit offset by size 2. So they're just more easily targeted by various things in the game. I could do that, or I could pick up Wardens in this Carawag. I'm probably running in Tempered right now anyway. Right? For 20 points cheaper, I lose. I guess I lose a little bit of Flux Powered and impacts, but I pick up Fearless and 20 points back in the list and size 1. So they're kind of just not offering quite enough to necessarily justify the restricted pick. Now, I found myself, like, if I have 20 points to spare in a list where I don't think I'm going to get much out of it anywhere else, I'll pick up a unit of Steelforge in the Steel Shaper list. Like, they're not bad. They're still a solid MSU, but there's just, like, they're not quite, like, they're not must-have if I'm running a Steel Shaper.
They're not as oppressive as last summer. Like, last summer, they were super
D5
oppressive.
was pretty good.
Yeah. It's like, how the hell am I going to deal with this? I'm like, well, I need, like, the highest I can get is Cleave 2. Like, okay. Guess they're always going to be Defense 3. Like, this is not a good spot to be in.
Yeah. They could use a little something. Like, I kind of like Hardened 1 for them. I could see another couple of options. Carl has suggested before Mainstay 2 for them. I'm not as hot on that one because I think one of the main Dweg design philosophies should be that they only ever have infantry mainstays. But I don't know. I'm kind of open to the idea. I mostly would like them to just be a little bit beefier for their point cost. Let them feel like a real restricted pick.
How many wounds are on Steelforge? Is it 5 or 6?
5. It's 5. Everything in the army is 5 except for monsters and dragon slayers, who are 6.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe make them 6.
That's not a bad idea either. Honestly, they're Steelforge. They're fucking tough. But otherwise, I mean, we could just talk about, like, the casters themselves, and, like, the Steel Shaper is really good in the sense that he auto casts on his own unit, so he's just generating shit tickets, no problem at all. And he's really good for entouraging because he has good buffs for that sort of thing. But the problem is that until Magma Forge release, like, 2 of his spells are not really all that. Like the Hardened spell I've gotten some use out of in some games. Like, I was playing against Skillin, and I was able to harden my Warden's block right before they got hit by Incarnate Sentinels. Like, that's relevant sometimes. And other times, like, he might be... most of the time he's chilling in some Ballast Day. Sometimes someone will put him in some Fire Force, and then he'll be able to, like, -1 defense something, and then entourage into the unit that he's with. Which is pretty powerful, but that -1 defense is only 12 inches, so... you're going to have to be close to do that, so there's some up and downs to it, but he's got a decent spell suite for once Magma Forge come out, then we'll really be fucking kicking.
That's where the fun begins.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little bit worried about, like, those two-handed axes. Like, they might try to give that unit cleave, and I'm like, I mean, they're going to hang out with the Steel Shaper. Like, what are we going to do with him? He's going to -1 defense something, and then hit him with a cleave 2 unit. Like, what are we doing? But we'll see when it comes to that. Otherwise, the Tempered Sorcerer, he's got 3 spell schools. Fire and Magma are very close to each other right now. Because... sorry. Yeah.
No, I was gonna ask, which one would you think is the top?
I think it's entirely dependent on your build, right? Okay. Like, I think Magma wins in the very specific scenario of Double Drake, in my opinion. Or, excuse me, Double Drake with one of them being Warlord. Because that's what lets you cast a seep with your Warlord. The Magmatic Seep, and then you can Power Class off it twice, both with the Warlord after the Seep and then the other caster. So your Warlord basically becomes this, as you learned in Archicon game, this 16-inch diameter.
Death Circle?
Yeah, exactly. Or yeah, exactly. Or 16-inch radius actually, off the monster base. Of don't go here lest you want 8 AP1 hits in your flank. Causing resolve.
Or you do what I do and fail to cast the hindering train spell. You're like, God damn it!
Yeah, and yeah, the seep is hindering, which is entirely relevant sometimes, right? Like that sometimes just turns off impacts or makes a incoming clash a little bit less effective. Yeah, exactly. So otherwise, other than that specific scenario, I think fire is generally better because fireball is so good.
It has such good. It has such good consistency of cast and how many successes you can get with just a tempered. Like, if I can take focus, if I recall correctly.
If you're on foot, yeah, obviously you can't take it if you're riding into the. And even if you if
you're also Wizard 7,
yeah, exactly. That's what makes it good. Again, right? Like you don't have to that's built into the thing now. You don't have to spec it for foot, so you can put them on a Drake and still get your Arcane 1 basically, which is a huge boon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you have Coruscation too, which if you're shooting a unit that's D2 E2 or something like that, where Fireball's not going to do anything, well now you got Coruscation for which is a 2 mid 4, which is throwing out more hits for your trouble. Yeah,
super good.
Yeah, exactly. So those are very close. I think outside of that specific circumstance for Magma, again double Drake with one of them being Warlord, you're probably running fire these days. But that's a pretty good spot for the two to be in. Now Earth, I think the problem in Conquest is that buffs are kind of just tough to have value for because they're not, even if you have a dead character command draw, there's use in that in the sense that if you have a spot in your turn where you just want to wait to see what your opponent does, there's still use in that. And obviously buffs kind of do that too. But once that happens, or once that stage of the game is done, where you're probably not going to want to wait to see what your opponent does as much. Well, now buff spells, you want to actually time into what your opponent's doing, but obviously that's very priority dependent. Mm-hmm. And, we can't always guess what our opponent's going to do on the stack. There's the obvious play, but then, any number of things can happen. So, Earth kind of has that problem right now. On top of that, Roots of Stone, the requirement that your unit's already activated is pretty rough. You can't even act entourage into it if you really wanted to or something like that. The way it's currently designed. I'm and I mean the whole Dweg chat constantly every now and again someone asks about it and then we all hem and haw over it and are in awe of it again when we find out that I think it's Broken Ground turns off impacts forever until the next charge. That is really good, but it's not it's not game breaking. It's a very specific use situation, and it still requires a fair amount of setup on the Dweg player's part. So, yeah, Earth I think needs a fair amount of love because ultimately just dealing damage and killing stuff is the better play usually in Conquest. That's something that you can always do that you're always trying to do. That's always useful on the stack typically. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really like Magma just through its sheer flexibility. Mm-hmm. And just how much nonsense you can get off of it, and how much I really like it because it's like playing War Machine where you would just arc node shit around and just kind of bounce different angles, and I really like that in Conquest and just having that style of play in there because it doesn't get as straightforward anymore. What's really nice? Wow, I'm just getting burnt to death. This is fucking great.
just Elden Ring dragon.
Just Elden Ring. I'm fighting Pligisax the dragon.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
Yeah, well, spot on.
Yeah, so that's those are things that I really like about the different spells. And yeah, I do agree with you on Earth being very much it's really just the timing of it. You can't have I guess dead draws or things where you're not doing stuff and giving up tempo, and card advantage tempo is another big one that happens and players give up because they're kind of just doing weird stuff. Wow, the dragon threw a rock at me. This is fantastic.
Yeah, the most fuck you move a dragon could possibly hit you with. He's got claws, he's got fire breath, but I'm just gonna fucking chuck a rock at you.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of shiz right now, and I'm just kind of Can you stop for 2 seconds so I can hit you, please?
And to your point, tempo is exactly the word, right? Because if you look compare a buff activation from Earth to a fireball activation or a magma activation, the value you get out of those, and it's not really much contest.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, that's tempered. It's generally considered the strongest of them right now, and again for good reason because of the tokens. We've kind of talked on all that kind of stuff, and the other big thing too is that it dips so easily into the other warbands, which is something I like in Dweg. Honestly, like all the warbands play with each other pretty well. You usually can't you can go purely tempered or purely ardent. I guess you could technically go purely reg, although you really can't right now the way it's set up. But
no,
not effectively anyway. But they work better in tandem, and the different combinations you get out of them offer different effects. So, but tempered is the one that usually can very easily pick from all the different warbands and come up with a really good combo. Supplemented my tokens. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Do you want to talk about the Hold Rae? Like, what's his dealio? Like, is he kind of just like? Is he just kind of the bodyguard for the influencer? What is the tempered sorcerer? So he doesn't get punched in the face? Because it seems like a lot of his warband nowadays are being kind of used in that aspect. I know there's some players who want to kind of play him like old Warhammer fantasy dwarves. And yeah, he has all the units that would be that play style, but Dwehom is not... They're not dwarves, they're Dweghom. They're angry, pissed off dwarves who are a slave race. or no longer a slave race. So,
exactly. Yeah,
and you're allowed to use magic and people on fire. Like, I find Hold Rae kind of ends up in 2 slots where players are like, I want to recreate Warhammer Fantasy in Conquest. And it's like, okay, but like you're missing out on a lot of the power of the faction, and they don't do well. And then Hold Rae is basically pushed to the side to be like, bring an anvil, bring a hammer. You're here to fill out points so that my main stuff doesn't die.
So my first thing I would say about that is whoever is trying to recreate that fantasy Warhammer Fantasy, they're wrong for all the points that you said, but also the dwarves in Warhammer Fantasy had a fuck ton of cannons and bolt throwers and other artillery and other such shenanigans, thunderers and everything else. So the Hold Rae is not recreating that fantasy for you. That's just not going to happen. However,
the tempered sorcerer is
exactly like they took the cannons and put it on top of a drake. Like that's a whole other level of badass.
Yeah, they were like, we can do something with this.
Yeah. I love the Hold Rae. I love the band. I love the Ironclad Drake. The Hold Thanes and Dragon Slayer's kit is probably my second favorite in the faction behind the Initiates and Wardens right now.
Yep.
They are... That is the pair of units I took to ACON 2023 when they had some real broken shit going on at the time, and showed up and smashed a lot of face with it and had a good time until fucking Carl's bullshit. I met Carl's bullshit for the first time and have been dealing with it ever since.
Yeah. Do you guys only play on TTS, or do you guys play? Do you ever meet up in store? I think you guys don't live close to each other.
No, he lives over in Michigan, and I live here in Illinois. So yeah, we usually end up playing on TTS.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I should. I'll tell you this. I went to go pay for my taking the toll road, and I put my license plate in, and they're like, license plate not found, and I'm like, okay, so I just go free? Like, am I gonna get a bill in the mail? Like, what the fuck? Am I gonna get next time I go? Am I gonna get pulled over by a state trooper? Be like, you have this unpaid bill, and I'm like, okay, where do I pay it? Because your fucking country doesn't work.
I would like to think even our fucked up systems are smart enough to see know a Canadian when they see a Canadian, but who the hell knows?
Or are they like, oh, this is just a tax write-off, who gives a shit? It's just a
yeah, maybe.
They just can't be bothered. They're like, oh, getting his money's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that, I'm sure. But I don't know. We like our money around here, apparently.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the reg band, I think, suffers from a number of inconsistencies right now. Because it's entirely worth taking in the Hold Reagan Initiates Ironclad setup. Like, that's a strong band. That's a really strong war band. That does a lot of work. That slots both into tempered lists, although I'm not necessarily sure the strongest tempered list right now, but that was my LVO list, right? So, it's not that far behind. And obviously it slots right into Ardent lists because the Ironclad Drake is just a match made in heaven for Ardent.
For holding. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The problems it has is that Hold Thanes are way overcosted for what they bring. You know, they have an excellent stat line.
They do 10 now? Or
they're 200 points, but they're 55 points a stand. So you're paying according to the game's old logic, you're paying like 35 points for the privilege of taking Hold Thanes. I think
the privilege, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like I do think you should pay some premium for just getting the card in the deck, as Ben would say. But that's a little bit too much to ask. Like, I look at what Hold Thanes do for their costs, and I'm like, just give me fucking initiates every day of the week. Like, Hardened 1 is not that big of a boon.
As well as Cleave 1, like...
Cleave 1 for attacks, like, they hit shit, like, they're Cleave 3, but, like, I don't know, you put the Reg with Dragblood, Cleave 3 with a Relentless Blows in the initiate block, and he does all the damage you need them to do. Yeah. They're still stabbing the shit out of things. And mass attacks, yeah.
And no one's gonna duel that guy. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, and you get, I think for the price of the like 5 Hold Thanes stands. So I think that unit is like 310. You're gonna probably take a Herald in there, so like 330. So like 330 points for 5 Hold Thanes stands. For that price, you get, I think, a full 7 block of initiates. So that's 10 more wounds worth of D4 essentially, or D3 shield at least. That has benefits of other kinds and is also medium. So it shows up earlier. That is not a contest right now, sadly. So yeah, Hold Thanes, and I think part of the problem is that Hold Thanes are always running tempered lists, so their what's the word I'm looking for? Their perceived toughness is greater than it actually is.
Yeah, because the shit tickets just like kick them up to 11.
Right, and obviously you need to balance around that still, because you can still take them with it. But I don't know, you're taking a non-caster in that band. You're not generating a ticket every turn anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and and those tickets matter.
Yeah. So they're just a little bit overpriced, I think, for what they bring. And the heralds in general, like officers throughout the game, are overpriced. Heralds are absolutely part and parcel of that. Like the heralds are way too expensive for what they bring.
I think they're like 35 or something ridiculous. Like
the Herald of Fire and the Herald of Stone are both 30, which is an absolute travesty, especially on Stone. Like the Hardened +1, like Hardened 2 is not worth fucking 30 points. It's maybe worth 20, maybe. Herald of Fire especially is definitely not worth 30 points. Funny enough, the best of the 3 is the cheapest one. Like the one that I would actually pay like 25 points or more for, like not happily, but would do is the Aura Death. Yeah, Herald of Magma, because obviously Magma shenanigans, Arc Noting, and all that, but Aura Def 2 is just good. It's just 6 auto hits. Like that's very well priced. So yeah, they're way off for that. And the other big problem right now is that Dragon Slayers are also kind of in a rough spot. They're a little too expensive. They're also a little too expensive for what they bring. But their bigger problem is that they compete with the Ironclad Drake.
Yeah, and the Drake is faster.
Drake is faster. Drake doesn't degrade with damage taken. Excuse me. Hits about as hard into most things. Does impacts like his Brutal 2, Terrifying 2, 6 impact hits on 3s. It's just a much better unit for the cost. Now, if the Dragon Slayers had a free banner, or were costed such that they were 220 points with a banner, it's a little more interesting there. That it's actually a consideration maybe in some Ardent lists. But I don't know. I think still at the end of the day, you're probably still bringing a Drake. Like I think there needs to be something a little bit more drastic. Drake probably needs to go up like 10 points, honestly. I disagree with 20 points, which I've heard some people bring up, but I think maybe 10 points is maybe called for.
I don't know. Like 20 points, whenever there's like buffs of like, or sorry, not buffs, like there's point increases of 20 points, they seem to always be a little rough. Like one of the big ones I always look at is the Mountain Jotnar. I believe it was like 160, no, it was like 170. Yeah. And then it lost Flurry, and it went up 20 points to 190, and it was like, this thing could have, like, if this was such a problem, it could have probably gone to 180 and lost Flurry, like...
Yeah, especially because
like, or blooded the Einharjar special rule, like, that would have been more better for it. And I know a lot of Nords players are down about that, and it's just kind of like, Like, Ash and Dawn right now are getting just, like, what are they at? They're at 240, now they're at 250, or sorry, they're at 240, 80, now they're at 250, 90. And I'm kind of like, This is still acceptable. Like, this is still a very good unit. This isn't these point change. Like, there isn't enough change to deter me from taking this unit currently. While like Dragon Slayers and not Dragon Slayers, but like the Hellbringer Drake kind of is sitting in like this very much has like this sweet spot. It just kind of gets away with. It seems.
Yeah. Like looking at Dragon Slayers, like their stat line is ridiculous. They're class 4 or 5 attacks, cleave 3. I mean that's gonna mulch whatever they're looking at. And obviously 6 wounds, D3 hardened to resolve 4 is very tough.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is they're move 5 and they're heavies. So when you compare that to what the Ironclad Drake brings, that's a little bit tough in terms of value. So I don't know. I've floated around the idea of making them a support unit and kind of costing them appropriately to kind of help differentiate them against the Ironclad. Like you might take them for if you want to block, you can take the Ironclad if you want a little bit more of an efficient single pick. But honestly, they just need to be. There just needs to be a little bit more of a points differential between the two units, and I think we're looking at something there. Maybe some other tonings here and there, but the other big thing I would add, as of right now, is the Hold Rae Supremacy. Since we're still talking about the band, Hold Rae Supremacy is not good. It's more powerful, I think, than maybe it looks on its face because light scoring is pretty powerful, and just being able to more powerfully score in general because wherever the reg shows up, always scoring there. I mean that's pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
But those things do nothing. Like Dwehom has no problem holding points, right? they have problems taking the points. So to actually take the points, you need to be able to actually get out of your castle and start making trades and taking on fights.
Or your opponent is too wary and you just set your castle up on the point. You're like, come at me, bro.
Assuming good play from the opponent, anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I can't think of a single. Like I've tried to build reg lists, and I can't think of a single reg list that would not just look better and play better as one of the other creeds.
Yeah, I think I was making a Hold Rae list on the plane, and I sent it to you, and it was like, "What is this? Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying, okay."
Yeah, it's just not like again, like it can win games. I don't think it's going to win as many games as Ardent or Tempered. And honestly, I think its biggest sin, and this is the thing I brought up at Acon, because we were talking about with Leo and Carl and Ben jump in. They're like, the Hold Rae Supremacy is actually not that bad. I'm like, but it's fucking boring, guys. It's a really boring. Now this is me. This is entirely personal opinion now at this point, right? I mean, I guess honestly, this whole thing is my personal opinion.
What do they call this? I don't want to say it's objection. It's like
hot take.
Yeah, it's a hot take. You're hot taking.
But it's boring. It's just a boring freaking supremacy. Like you've got elemental tokens or crazy rabid charging ardent zealots, and then you've got I'm better at objective play. That's not a compelling. Like we're talking about the uttermost martial element, the most dwarviest, Dweghomiest element of the entire faction. I don't think objective play with that stuff. I think I'm better at beating the shit out of my opponent, or I'm better at bringing the stuff to bear to beat the shit out of my opponent because my units are so good, right? Like the Hold Rae band, if it has any real characteristic or quality, it's like half of its units are heavies.
Yeah.
It should have stuff that supplements that kind of game plan. Like I would love to see a list of Dweg that's just like, for a while there, Wadroon had the Thunder Rider Tantor spam list.
Yeah, the Dino.
It was like 8 activations. It completely forewent the entire first 2 turns of the game, and then it just showed up somewhere and windshield wipered the board. And it had its strengths and weaknesses. I would love to see something like that for Dweg. You know what I mean? Like that. I would love to see a maybe not heavy only, but certainly like heavy mostly kind of band in that regard. But I the internal balance in the reg band is probably the worst of the of the 4 total. And I think that's partly a question of points and maybe a little bit of stats in the units themselves, but I think it's also mostly just like the rules that the rank supremacy and the hold or the lack of hold creed is causing right now. So we'll see which design direction that goes eventually. I know that it's something that's on Leo and Reese's radar. And honestly, when I brought up the boring thing at Adepticon, that's something that they seem to be pretty receptive to. They're like, yeah, we can see that. It's not a very inspiring ability. So we'll see where they go with that. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, the Hold Rae units are, the Reg and Initiate block is, like I was saying before, is absolutely disgusting. It's a staple of a lot of my lists, and the Ironclad Drake is really, really good. So he still has a place in a lot of lists. Mm-hmm. It's just, of the... I think I would still rate him above the Steel Shaper Warband in terms of power and utility.
Oh, really? Okay.
I would, unless, of course, you're running Steel Shaper Warlord. Like, if you're running Steel Shaper, you're probably running him as a Warlord. Like, that's the reason why you're bringing him. Otherwise, there's not much reason to bring him. You might as well bring Karaweg or Reg. And again, that's because Steel Forged aren't really... They're not really offering anything in particular right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But them's the bands.
We haven't really talked about Steel Forge.
We talked about
not Steel Forge. Tempered Steel Shaper. Like and we kind of talk, like, I want to say, like, not talked about him primarily, but we kind of talked him in passing in relation to the other warbands in the faction. So I just want to kind of touch on him a little more, just to, I guess, kind of like solidify him and like kind of what he's doing.
I did talk about him a little bit. Like I said, he's got the buff problem that the Earth School Sorcerer has, right? Essentially, where 2 of his spells are buff spells, so it's kind of hard to slot into where they go. Now that would be ameliorated a little bit, at least in the case of the Clash buff spell that he has. Mm-hmm. If he had if he was in a unit that cared about it, that will change when Magma Forge release. Like, he'll be able to go into Magma Forge and they'll make use of his Clash buff.
Just have fun.
Yeah, and then I think the Harden buff is fine where it's at because, if you could find the space to squeeze it into your stack, then you will. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's an option there. And then obviously -1 defense is just a good buff in general. Like, that's probably the best debuff in the game that you could possibly have. You have some use entourage into it from whatever unit that he's in.
Yeah, like if he's in Fireforge especially, that'll be very helpful because he can just cast it, Fireforge, and then Fireforge is basically shit at AP3 at this point, and you can do a ton of damage. His Supremacy build, we kind of talked about that, like using the tokens and then like healing. Have you made, like, I remember looking at this when the Dwight changes happened last September, and it was like, okay, there's something, I like what he's doing, I like his Supremacy, it's way better than it was before. My issue is like the Tempered's kind of, if you're going for token generation, the Tempered's are kind of the way to go. Like, I don't see him really being the guy to be the Warlord just because of how efficient token generation and spending is with the Tempered Sorcerer.
So here's the thing, right?
And that's why I kind of push him out of the running as a viable Warlord.
So I mentioned it a bit before. Mm-hmm. Because of the healing, yes, he's not generating as much as the Warlord Temper Sorcerer. However, you're doubling the value of your tokens.
You're only getting 3, so you're getting 2/3 of the tokens.
Yeah, so like
3/5.
So like my Acon list.
Yeah.
2 tokens turn 1 on average rolls for reinforcements. And then the spell cast, obviously, and then the 2, again, assuming average rolls for reinforcements, which I don't think I think every single game I went my way, basically. So I had both my Drakes and then both the Zerker units on the turn that I wanted them each game. So by the end of turn 2, it was 7 tokens, and then it was 4 tokens for every turn after that. That's a lot of fucking tokens, and that's good power.
Yeah.
Now, if you're running some kind of double Kara Steel Shaper Sorcerer list, you're probably getting 2, maybe 3 tokens, but probably 2 on turn 1, and then you're getting another 2 plus the 2 originally that you had, so 4 on turn 2, and then so on and so forth. So you're getting 6 tokens by the end of 2, and then it goes on from there. But those tokens, again, are doubled in value because you spend them, you block something, and then you heal for every time that you spend.
Yeah.
Up to 3. And you should be spending them in 3 token increments. So technically, actually, Steel Shaper Supremacy makes better use of tokens than the Sorcerer Supremacy does, yeah. Now, obviously, the sorcerer pays for that because he's blowing stuff up more. He's casting a second spell, so that's the power of the second supremacy. I mean, you get another token for it, obviously, but that's kind of second fiddle to the main power of, you're casting another coruscation or a fireball. And it sets up the double magma thing that we were talking about. But Steel Shaper Supreme, there is absolutely, Steel Shaper is much more powerful than I think people realize. Because remember how we talked about, you can keep a unit alive longer than it should and waste more opponents' activations and all that good stuff because they're stuck killing an MSU that should have died long ago. That sort of thing.
You're healing it, yeah.
You're healing it. You're getting double value out of those tokens, so it's even harder now. So it's actually the tempo that Steel Shaper offers you is actually, I would say, much greater than the raw power damage of the Sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that too, your cards are not so much in the one basket because that supremacy is active regardless of whether the Steel Shaper's around. So you're always healing. So if your sorcerer dies, well, you're out of your supremacy, and you don't get it for the rest of the game. Whereas, if your Steel Shaper is your guy, then you're at least always healing with your tokens. So there's a little bit of security in that too. So there's actually absolutely a very viable couple of lists and game plans, I think, with Steel Shaper Warlord. It's very strong and powerful. Yeah, he's pretty solid. Like I said, the only thing I really would like to change for him is Steel Forge maybe getting some a little bit of love. Now he's got the Stone Forged on the way.
Yeah, let's talk about Optimus Prime.
Slapped Optimus Prime as Jeff coined, which I still have to paint at some point. But
what did I called him something on the stream where the last happy hour, and Daryl was like, I called him Discount Optimus Prime, and Daryl was like, no, he's not Discount. I just kept laughing. It's like, what? Oh boy.
Yeah, he's the Stoneforge is pretty good. I'm actually I was pretty hot on it when it first came out. Like I thought his rules were a little bit overbalanced at the moment. But I've cooled down on him a little bit because the thing is solid. It's just not it's not overwhelmingly strong. Like if I want to fill out the heavy slot, there's still good argument to maybe just bring the Rae band and fucking roll him along. But that being said, I think the Stoneforge probably will still slot into a lot of tempered lists. Like it's just the one heavy to use for your auto to fill out the curve of your list showing up. It's kind of a natural home for the Steel Shaper. The problem is that you kind of want the Steel Shaper in turn one to start generating those tickets.
Yeah.
As early as possible. So maybe there's a double Steel Shaper list where you put one on the Stoneforged and one in a Battle Stay, but then you're running double Steel Shaper, and that's as we discussed, his spells are solid, but they're not that good. You know what I mean? It's not like double Sork where you're casting a bunch of fireballs and shit. So then the question becomes, do you run one without the Steel Shaper Rider? I think there's maybe some value in that, but I don't know if it's necessarily something that Tempered really needs as it is right now, especially with how good the Karaweg Warband is for them. Ben found some tech recently where even if mainstay Berserkers go away and just become Ardent only, like I was talking about before, the Karaweg Warden block in Steel Shaper is really fucking disgusting because you have a bunch of Wardens with their ridiculous attacks become tenacious from the Karaweg, and then they're healing off the Steel Shaper supremacy with tokens and everything else. So
yeah, we call this abuse.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to test them. I haven't really tested them much yet, but from what little I've played with the lists, and have kind of tried to work them into things. Not quite as sold on him as I once was. I might end up being wrong about that, but I'm definitely reserved.
He really interests me, and I might play around with him at some point because, I don't know. You and I were chatting about Dweghom, and I was really interested, and I got a good lot of it for pretty cheap. And then Ben started posting 100k lists, and I was like, God damn it! Yeah. My love and joy for 100k is just re-sprouted up immediately.
I'm the same way with Dweg, right? I've fooled around with a Wadroon list. I was going to bring out a Wadroon list in our attempted game tonight, and then I was like, I gotta play some Ardent. I gotta bring out the old dwarves and shit. I think the one faction that might mix that up for me is Weavers. I'm really excited for Weavers coming out.
Yeah, if Stravos ever gets that sorted out, it's like, come on,
seriously. Or if Wadroon get a not necessarily. I'll be honest, kind of a good rule set, but also an exciting rule set. Again, they're a little bit not exciting right now outside of like one build. I'll probably be a little bit more on that, but Dweghom certainly. They're my jam right now. They'll probably always be my jam. I'm a dwarf guy. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Same with 100K. Like you never forget your first love.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking.
And you know, I'll say this too. I think it's a very natural progression for you to go from 100 Kingdoms to Dweg, for the simple fact that they're both very honest factions, right?
I'm a very honest kind of guy.
Yeah. Well, the jury's out. Jury's out.
Oh. Damn, right in my dick.
I can't. But yeah, you know, you've got like 100 Kingdoms has a lot of strong, powerful units, but they have not any particular, usually not meant much in the way of tempo advantages, right? Like maybe you have some fire advance here and there through the Imperial Officer, or maybe you have a little bit of double time and whatnot. But usually you're playing a very straight up fight, a lot of buffs to your characters to just have a really powerful clashes from your units, particularly cavalry being able to go where it's got to go.
Yeah, 100K has a lot of like you get access to stuff from like what other factions you would probably say is their whole stick. Like you can get to some high defenses, you can get to some speed, you can get to some weird wacky tactics. Like 100K gets to dabble in everything, what I find really nice. So you get an idea what's going to be happening. But it's it doesn't specialize. Like the only specialization 100K really has is that it is the Cav faction currently. I know some. I don't know how to say this. Like I know, what is it? They want the Steps faction maybe to do more Cav at a later date, but currently it does not. So there's.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, there's things going for it and everything, and I'm excited to see what happens next. But I really like the, I guess, like, kind of the simplicity of 100K, and that a lot of its power comes from list building itself, and that kind of makes it kind of weird to play. Actually, is because that like its power comes from the list building.
Yeah,
because like you're kind of just doing you're not doing anything more on the table.
Yeah,
except for the base plan of just doing your strategy and tactics, similar to Dweghom. Like the goal is to make a castle and fight, or now that we're hopefully maybe we're gonna get a game in even at a later date or something. I don't know.
Hopefully, if TTS cooperates.
Yeah, god damn it. I'll see your Dweg Goblin with Warders and Flame Berserkers, because I do, when you start putting that down, I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Like, how am I going to deal with this? He's going to be like, he has more MSUs, but trade up really well. Like, you got a lot going for it there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of what's going on there.
That'll be a very interesting fight. It's a different style of Dweg. It's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to showcase it if it was going to go up on your channel, because I don't think you see a lot of Argent Dweg.
No,
maybe in some local shops, but yeah.
Yeah, but that level of Argent Dweg, because I have seen Argent Dweg before. I've played into it, I don't know, like a year ago now, and it was very like, okay, this is fine, but it wasn't taking advantage of what Argent Dweg is going for. Like, it wasn't running Flame Berserks. It ran one big block of Warders. Like, it kind of wasn't using what you can do with Argent Dweg. But also, Argent Dweg has changed since then and has been more effective now.
Yeah, Argent is closer to power to tempered than I think people realize. Just because, I mean, Carawag has a really good suite of spells now, and its units are just so fucking crazy in terms of stats. Still not quite. I would definitely still rate Tempered higher. I would feel much more comfortable bringing a Tempered list to a tournament than an Ardent list. But with good positioning, which is something you should learn in this game anyway, your Ardent list will smack the crap and surprise, I think, a lot of people with the tricks that it can pull. So,
what is good?
Yeah. Excited to play it more and to explore other options of Dweg, and hopefully we'll see some maybe some slight buffs to Ardent to bring it on par with Tempered, and hopefully a better design for Holds, because I would really like to bring out the Dragon Slayers and Hold things again. I love those models.
Yeah, the Dragon Slayers look sweet, and they are such a cool looking unit.
Yeah, they're fucking awesome.
I'm glad we went over this. Is there kind of anything else you want to chat about like Dweghom specifically? I'm glad we went over the units. I'm glad we went over like strengths and weaknesses. Like, this seems like a good baseline chat about Dweghom for anyone who really wants to understand it better and kind of what's going on. Is there, I don't know, I don't know if you want to do lists or like, you know, talk about some lists or talk about kind of, I don't know, anything that like we kind of covered it all. It's kind of funny. Like,
yeah, I don't. I mean, we could sit here and rattle off a bunch of warbands and whatnot, but I think, like, I'm Mechanic on the Discord. You'll see me pop up every now and again with lists. Pay attention to Benjamin and Casey Swanson and all those guys. They'll pop up with lists and shit like that too.
Carl. I love the best one when Carl's like talking to somebody and they're like, "Who are you?" And I'll post the 4 silverfish gnomes, and it's like,
yeah.
well, he's the master of second place. It's like, well, he's not first, so he's first loser. And I'm like, oh, poor Carl. Feels bad.
He goes into Dweg chat on the general Discord way more than I ever do, which makes me happy because, you know, he can handle answering people's questions and fitting his ideas on things, because he and I play enough that he's got a good idea of Dweg. So I'm more than happy to endorse his ideas and not have to wade into it myself. But yeah, I mean, I'll just reiterate what I said before. Like, Dweg are, like, because they... The first 3 and 4 turns of the game are the most important turns of the game, because you're positioning your units, you're setting them up for where they are more or less going to be, their first actions are going to be the most important actions with killing other units, and then that sets them up for their, if they live, for the stuff after that, right? That's important for every single faction. It's doubly important for Dweg. That's kind of the big thing, because, again, we don't have double time, we don't have high movement values across the board and shit. We're not going to sweep flanks all that fast. So you need to make sure that you... And again, because the movement values are so low, typically, or because you are, you know, shooting, so you're not moving much, preferably anyway, because you want to take aim and shoot. You want to make sure you're getting to the spots that you need to be, so that when those engagements happen, you're properly... getting those charge clashes in when you can, you're taking those take aim volleys where you can, you're getting the absolute most out of the 2 actions that you have available to you for each unit. That's how you win games with Dweg. So your initial positioning and where you put your units, which usually typically means a somewhat tight castle, tighter than maybe your average castle, with a very strong forward flank backed up with a lot of guns, and then a weak flank probably also backed up with a lot of guns if you're playing Tempered, or a lot of axes if you're playing Ardent.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the way to play them. If you like blowing shit up and being tough doing it, Dweg your faction, man. Oh, if you like fire and guns and beards, it's also your faction. So yeah, Dweg are awesome.
I like them, and I didn't initially want to get into Dweghom when I first started playing Conquest. By the way, small tangent, at an hour 38, I'm stuck in a pillar. So when this goes up, you should go check it out to see me stuck in a pillar. Yeah,
we're on track.
Yeah, so doing great. Everything I touch just disintegrates into ruin. But back to Dweghom. Like, I did not initially want to get into Dweghom when I first started playing, because I played dwarves in War Machine. I like dwarves a lot, and I just needed to get away from them, and I grabbed 100k because I liked what it looked like, and, you know, I enjoyed how I played. So getting into Dweghom now, I'm really like, okay, what's going on with the faction? You breaking it down now really helps me understand it better, because I was trying to build lists, and I'm like, these aren't good lists, because I'm building like a beginner Dweg player, what's pulling on 100k experience, and I can't do that. Like, you do build Dweg lists differently than you do build other factions lists, because you got to look at the castle, and you got to look at how are you going to support your ranged options to get the most work. Your Argent list has no shooting, what I really do like about it, and it's very interesting, but also it has very good peace traders, what's really nice about that list. While when I was building lists, I'm like, oh, I'll take some Dragon Slayers. I'll take a brick of Dragon Slayers. I'll take a brick of Hold Things. I'll take double Drake. I'll take some Fire Forge. I'm kind of looking at it. And I'm like, this doesn't work. This is very much lists that I saw being played by Dweg players like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I can't build I could build these lists and play them. And then I got to develop all the learning for Dweg, or I could talk to Bryan and find out what the fuck's going on.
It's a question of experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could be Ben, who just like walks into a faction and goes, "Oh, this looks good," and then smashes everyone's face. But we're not all Ben, sadly. So a little bit of experience in talking to other players is usually the way to go with it. And honestly, I've only gotten, as far as I've gotten, like I said at the top of the thing, where like you play it to good players. You'll eventually get there yourself. So, you play the faction a bunch. You'll find what works for you. Dweg don't have the biggest roster, which is both a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways. But the blessing is that the units are close enough typically that you can find your way to a good faction. Or a good list. The biggest stumbling block, I think, I would say, for Dweg is that it's very easy to kind of get lost in the blocks. I've done that before myself. And some of the buffs that you can add to the blocks to the characters. Really, you want the most efficient setup. So, because Dweg is a very points-hungry faction, all of our stuff is very expensive. So you need the most bang for your buck everywhere that you can get it is really the Dweg question. Which is why, the reason I was complaining about Dragon Slayers and Whole Things, they're a little too expensive for what they do, right? Inferno Automata, a little expensive for what they do, at least, especially compared to Fireforge, who was sitting there right there at the same price point, right? You'll find your way to it, and just play a bunch of games and enjoy blowing shit up. Bring the war to the opponent.
Okay, I got Beastman Galark to fucking kill me in a pillar to get out. Please kill me.
Oh
there
my
we
God.
go.
All that for.
Oh my God.
It's time.
Yeah. I'm dead. I can finally leave the pillar.
Finally.
I couldn't teleport out. It wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
I was like, God damn it.
Damn you, Miyazaki.
Okay,
Damn you.
Is he gonna fight me? Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened there. That's so weird. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to play Dweg. I'm excited we had this. I'm happy we had this chat. So,
yeah. Me too. It's fun to talk. Something I spend way too much time thinking about and talking to other people about. So I appreciate this opportunity to.
No problem.
To dispense with what
knowledge.
Wisdom I've garnered. Yeah, what Dweg knowledge.
So yeah, it's pretty good. There, I'm out of the pillar.
Fantastic.
Fantastic game.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's it. Should probably call it.
Yeah. Good talk.
Hey. Yeah.
Well, we'll finally get a game in soon, hopefully.
I hope so.
Fucking TTS works, and yeah.
So there we go. So thank you for joining me today. Thanks everyone for listening to this and watching me get killed a bunch in Elden Ring. Just few closing remarks. BonkTable's got a Discord. Join it. Bryan's there. He'll talk to you about Dweg. I know when Skillin was trying to really break down and figure out Dweg, because I think he played 3 Dweg opponents at Adepticon, he went hard on you to know more about Dweg and like really learn it. That's really good.
Yeah.
So
it was crazy.
There's a bunch of guys there who gladly chat about Conquest. Less, I don't want to say less, but like, well, it's true. There's less toxicity than the main Discord.
I would say so.
Yeah, it's. Oh my God.
Everyone in that Discord is relatively concerned with just having good discussions about Conquest and seeing what works and whatnot, and terrible memes. But yeah. Yeah,
well, you can't escape terrible memes. It's just part of the deal.
Right.
So I'm really, if you want some good Conquest discussion, come and join us on BonkTable. Lots of people there who'll talk about Conquest and help you out. Got a YouTube channel. You're probably watching this gameplay on it. We got a podcast. I don't know if I'm gonna put. I might put this up there. I might not. I don't know. Figure it out. Who cares?
Figure it out.
Yeah, I don't care. And what was else? Cassandra has Instagram. Yeah, I gotta remember everything. What the hell everything is, because it's like I go away for work.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for joining us. I hope you guys all have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.